Invisible Rancher. How a broke drifter turned a dead town into a $40 million empire without anyone knowing his name. In the winter of 1879, a man walked into Harrow Creek, New Mexico with 43 cents in his pocket and mud caked to his boots. No horse, no gun, no name that anyone could verify. By 1891, that same man controlled the water rights, the cattle routes, and the land deeds for nearly 400 square miles of the most valuable territory in the American Southwest. He never fired a single bullet. He never stood on a courthouse step. He was never quoted in a single newspaper. But when he died, quietly, in a modest house on the edge of his own empire, investigators found a locked iron chest beside his bed. Inside that chest was a single leather ledger, and inside that ledger was a system so precise, so ruthless, and so generous that historians still argue about whether this man was a saint or the most dangerous businessman the frontier ever produced. His name was Elias Croft, and he went from 43 cents to a $40 million land empire in 11 years. Tonight, we open that chest. If you love untold history, hit that subscribe button right now. The legends are just waking up. Harrow Creek was dying before Elias Croft ever arrived. Not slowly, not quietly. It was being murdered. 3 years before Croft walked into town, a cattle baron named Hollis Dredd had moved into the region with a private legal team, a railroad connection in Santa Fe, and one simple strategy. He would buy the water. In the arid Southwest of the 1870s, water wasn't just valuable, water was power. Whoever controlled the wells controlled the ranchers. Whoever controlled the cattle owned everything, from the boots on your feet to the bread on your table. Dredd quietly purchased the 2 primary water wells serving Harrow Creek. Then he purchased the only functional mill within 60 miles. He raised water prices by 300% in 18 months. Ranching families who had worked that land for 2 generations started defaulting on their leases. Small homesteaders sold for almost nothing just to survive the winter. By the time Croft arrived, 12 families had already left. The schoolhouse had been shuttered. The church had a hole in its roof that nobody had the money to fix. The mercantile store owner, a widow named Clara Finn, was 3 months behind on her building note. The local sheriff was on Dredd's payroll, and every lawyer within 2 days' ride had already been retained by Dredd's legal team, making him untouchable through conventional means. This was Harrow Creek in 1879, a town strangled by one man's greed. And into this wreckage walked Elias Croft. No one took him seriously. That was his first advantage.
Here is what nobody understood about Elias Croft. He wasn't a cowboy. He wasn't a gambler. He wasn't an outlaw looking for a score. He was a former land surveyor from Tennessee who'd spent 7 years working for the federal government mapping territory boundaries across 4 states. And what he knew, what almost nobody in Harrow Creek knew, was that Hollis Dredd's water purchases had a flaw. A quiet, devastating, completely legal flaw. Under the Desert Land Act of 1877, private ownership of water sources in federal territories came with one critical condition. The water had to be developed and put to productive use within a specific window of time. If the owner failed to develop the water resource, if they simply bought it to lock others out, the ownership claim could be legally contested and potentially voided. Dredd hadn't developed the wells, he'd capped them. He was selling access to existing water, not developing new infrastructure as the law required. Croft spent his first 2 weeks in Harrow Creek not talking, not drinking, not gambling. He was measuring, recording, mapping. He walked every inch of land surrounding both contested wells. He identified something Dredd's expensive lawyers had apparently missed: a secondary underground water channel running beneath the eastern edge of Clara Finn's property and 3 adjacent homesteads. He also found something buried in the Harrow Creek County records, an unclaimed federal land survey from 1863 that had never been properly filed. A survey that, if filed correctly under current land statutes, would reclassify a significant parcel of Dredd's contested territory as public rangeland, permanently removing it from private sale. Croft had found 2 weapons, and he hadn't spent a single dollar yet. This is the system Croft documented in what historians would later call the invisible ledger. Not a record of money spent, a record of leverage identified. Every entry wasn't a transaction, it was a pressure point, a hidden advantage waiting to be activated at precisely the right moment. He understood something that most men never learn. You don't need capital to build an empire. You need information that others have ignored. Like this video if you believe strategy beats luck every single time. Croft's genius wasn't just finding the leverage, it was the order in which he used it. He didn't go to court first, he went to Clara Finn. He told her about the underground water channel beneath her property. He helped her file the proper development paperwork to establish legal use rights before Dredd's team could respond. It cost Clara Finn $11 in filing fees. Croft covered it from his own pocket. Then he went to the 3 adjacent homesteaders, same conversation, same quiet assistance, same $11 each. While Hollis Dredd was sitting in his territorial mansion, confident that Harrow Creek was already broken, Croft was quietly building a coalition of landowners who now had independent water access that didn't require Dredd's permission. Dredd's water monopoly was cracking, and he didn't even know it yet. Next came the land reclassification. Croft partnered with a land attorney in Albuquerque, not a local one that Dredd controlled, and filed the 1863 survey correction through federal channels. The process took 4 months. During those 4 months, Croft did something that locked in community loyalty for the next generation. He organized the ranching families into a cooperative, a collective buying and selling agreement where they pooled cattle to negotiate better rates at the railhead. It wasn't charity, it was pure economic architecture. Each family kept their independence, but together they had the volume to bypass the middlemen Dredd controlled. The town started breathing again. The mercantile store reopened properly. The church roof got fixed. A small school session restarted in Clara Finn's barn. And not one person in the community, not even the families he was helping, fully understood that Croft was simultaneously building the legal case that would collapse Dredd's entire operation. He was invisible. He kept his name off of every document he could. He let Clara Finn's name appear on the filings. He let the cooperative leadership rest with the ranchers themselves. He was the architect of a fortress, and he built it so that it belonged to the people inside it.
In the spring of 1882, the federal land reclassification was approved. 47,000 acres that Hollis Dredd had counted as the foundation of his empire reverted to public range status. His cattle operation lost its primary grazing corridor overnight. Dredd attempted to challenge it. His legal team was expensive and aggressive, but the challenge failed because Croft had built the case on federal statute, not local politics. There was no sheriff to bribe, no local judge to lean on. It was a federal matter, and the filing was airtight. Dredd liquidated within 8 months and left the territory. And in the quiet that followed, Elias Croft did something nobody predicted.
He used the capital from the cooperative's first 3 profitable cattle seasons to begin purchasing the land Dredd had abandoned. Not for himself alone. He structured it as a land trust, a legal arrangement that gave participating families a permanent equity stake in the territory. Over the next 9 years, Croft built that trust into the dominant landholding in the region. He secured railroad access. He negotiated mineral survey rights. He brought in a lumber operation that employed 60 local men. By 1891, the Harrow Creek Land Trust, with Elias Croft as its silent managing trustee, was valued at $40 million in territorial assets. The community used trust revenues to build a proper schoolhouse, a medical clinic staffed by a trained physician, and 53 family homes on land those families now legally owned. Harrow Creek became the most prosperous independent community in the New Mexico Territory. And in every record, every deed, every filing, Croft's name appears quietly, never first, never loudest, always there, always building. Share this story with one person who needs to change their mindset today. One person. Every time I research one of these stories, I think about the same thing. Not the money, not the land. I think about the moment Elias Croft walked into that broken town with 43 cents and chose to pay attention when everyone else was either panicking or running. I'm building something too. Not a land empire, a legacy, a home where my family can breathe easy, a channel where stories like this don't get buried. And I believe, the same way Croft believed, that the right information, used in the right order, at the right moment, changes everything. That's the invisible ledger. That's the frontier fortune. And that's why I keep telling these stories. I'll see you in the next legend.